This picture is a picture of the pioneers, some of the pioneers that came. A lot of these ladies still live in Ottawa now. There's about 3 of them that live in Toronto and 2 that live in the United States.
Garmamie girl in St. Market, not a quarter what sell. Garmamie girl in St. Market, not a quarter what sell. Oh, what a night, what a night, what a Saturday night. Oh, what a night, what a night, what a Saturday night. So that's where the men turn the cheer around.
For Black History Month, one of the events, which is part of the Then and Now TD band programming for this year, is a documentary honoring these ladies. And it's really an inspiring story, and it's going to open our eyes as to their contribution, seen and unseen.
Domestic scheme that had developed between the governments in the Caribbean and the government of Canada that brought young, unattached women from the Caribbean to work as domestic help in Canadian homes. If I remember now, the groups that came included people from Jamaica, Barbados, Guyana. I think Trinidad came in later, and Guyana dropped out later.
We went to Mrs. Pinnock's house, and Mrs. Pinnock had this photo. She had this photo, and I just looked at it and I said, hey, is that who I think it is? And sure enough, I recognized 2 or 3 of the ladies in that particular picture. And so I started probing and asking, and before I knew it was happening, she started telling the stories of some of the women there, and then this whole, the ladies of the West Indian domestic scheme thing sort of just started emerging and taking on a life of its own.
I came to Canada on the 2nd day of December 1955, when there was 8 inches of snow on the ground and no winter boots. It was very terrifying, but anyhow, 2 good people came and took me home to their home and treated me like a daughter.
About 100 of us did get through to come here. We took the plane. That's why I thought so many times, how many of us have been on a plane before? So there was a lot of commotion. When the plane goes into pockets, there was a big scream because everybody got frightened. So it was quite an exciting thing to hear the different bars.
I assumed that Ottawa would be the same as Jamaica. Dream. So I expected the weather to be warm and people to be, you know, talk to you and be friendly and be, you know that kind of thing. Well, when I arrived in Ottawa, it was in the middle of the FLQ crisis.
Because people may have forgotten that back in like the 40s, 50s, Canada had a whites-only immigration policy, actually even before that. So black people from the islands and the African continent, well, the only way you could get in was through labor schemes like this one.
There was an advertisement in the newspaper about domestic helpers to Canada. So I saw it and I sent in my application, and in 3 days I got called to come to the Jamaica immigration, for an interview, which I went and I was accepted.
The Labor Department, they told us what to expect, you know.
What did they tell you?
Well, first to begin it, we're coming up as cooks. So they let us know that we're not to cook peppery food for them, because they don't like peppery food, you know. So when we came, whoever going to do cooking for them, know that they're not to do cooking. But to the end they start to like the pepper food. Because when we cook the pepper food, especially the husband, they are always out. They come in and the food is on the stove. That food is not for them because we cook our own. They eat it. And they always ask for more of that pepper food when you're cooking your food.
And coming to a country where things were obviously very new and very different. And you have to obviously understand too, they were dealing with a demographic that was changing in Canada as well. Because one of the purposes of this entire scheme was that it was allowing Canadian women to enter the workforce. Now, with that said, you obviously are going to have some really great experiences. I've heard a lot of women say, you know what? It was a great experience for me. You've had some other women that their experience has not been that great.
Domestic scheme was what opened the door for many black West Indians to come to Canada. It sort of inched the door open, really, and the door has become wider.
You do what you need to do in order to support your family. And that's basically what I was doing and what all of us who came here were trying to do, is to look for a better life for us and our family. And that's bottom line.
Is a picture of Florence and Milton Robinson. Although Florence was one of the pioneers and Milton came after as a construction worker actually, they took people into their home. A lot of people would say that they lived with Florence and Milton when they first came and helped people to get along their way.
They were for the most part happy. They were for the most part well treated. There were complaints, of course, like long hours sometimes, rare complaints of not being paid properly, but it was much better pay in any event than they had been able to get anywhere before that. And so you arrived at the point where I am walking down Bank Street one day and I saw a young woman coming up and she looked like me and we sort of ran to each other and embraced sort of thing and we chatted a little bit. And I eventually arrived at the point I asked her, so when are you going back to Jamaica? And she said she was only going to go back for holidays, which was a shock to me. But she had made up her mind that this was the place that she wanted to be.